I saw it in an office that was either Billy's office or...
It was 666 Fifth Avenue. As a matter of fact, that's where the editing was done.
660. I'm glad I didn't know that at the time.
You remember it now.
I do now.
Yeah.
And I saw it, as I recall, standing up in a moviola in this office. And I was just blown away by it. I was staggered by it. I thought it was so glorious. I wanted to pick up the phone immediately and call Leo Greenfield, who was the head of distribution, and say, Leo, I'm going to give the big picture up to then was The Godfather. I'm going to give this a Godfather distribution pattern, aren't you? Of course, yes, certainly. He thought I was raving mad, but I had just seen the film. I thought, and I may have been wrong, that the scene from the novel between Kinderman and Dyer accomplished that so that without understanding it, you knew Dyer now is Karras. Karras really lives on forever. This relationship that Karras had with Kinderman lives now through Father Dyer. And everything, God's in his heaven, all is right with the world. Right? Maybe it didn't, but that was the intention, and that's something I think that the film could use.
I think you're right to this extent. I think what we should probably do with this new version is have you come on at the end and say to the audience, this film's not a downer, folks. This is not a downer.
I'm ready.
Okay, and Dyer lives on. My feeling, even though I just got through a lengthy, which will probably be cut, explanation of interpretation and where I varied from the written text, all of that gets put aside, I think, because what I really was feeling was we're trying to tell the audience this very thing that you're saying. And my feeling was, if they don't know, what are they doing in a theater? If they can't take a joke, Bill, then the hell with them. No, but my feeling was because this relates to certain other cuts in the film. The dialogue between Marin and Karras in a kind of a break in the exorcism scene, which in the film now is just a two-shot of two guys sitting on the stairs, but which you had written a quite beautiful dialogue for the two of them. But my feeling was that was explaining to the audience how they should feel about this experience, telling them what this is about, which always seemed to me to be inherent in the story that you wrote. The meaning of that was inherent to me, and anything that stated it suddenly became like we were trying to teach the audience a lesson, which I think is the difference between your approach and mine. And I think if the film is successful, it's where your approach and mine both end and meet. You really believe that there is a specific meaning on these events, and that the audience must understand it to have a full experience. My feeling is there is a specific meaning to these events that the audience should discover for themselves.
I agree to an extent, Bill. I certainly believe that the film, as it is, delivers a positive message about faith and spirituality and transcendence, on the most basic level. There are spirits, there are good ones, there are bad ones, there are works. I wanted the explanation from Marin. I'm talking about the film now. It's not why I put it in the novel. I thought it would be good in the film for Marin to explain to Karras that, listen, this is not about this little girl. We are the target.
Yeah.
Everyone in this house. And the object is to make us despair of our humanity, to feel that we are vile, putrescent, bestial creatures, and that even if there were a God, he could not possibly love us. Now, while I feel is absolutely true, it, on a theological level, it also has a dramatic function, I think, Bill, and it's this. It it gives you a core, a reason for why all of, let's face it, the shock and the obscenity that are in the film and in the book are taking place. It allows the audience to not despise itself for loving all of that shock and all of that obscenity and all of that torture of the little girl and the crucifix masturbation, all of that. They can enjoy the film for what it is and not revile themselves for enjoying it. Does that make any sense?
Indeed it does. Put to mind the anecdote of the French Impressionist painter Bonnard,
Yes.
who in his later years, after his works had already hung in the Louvre in his lifetime, was arrested in the Louvre with a little palette and a little brush, standing in front of one of his paintings and touching it up. And he was immediately grabbed by security guards who said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I am Bonnard, but I'm Bonnard." They said, "The painting is in the Louvre. It's finished." And every time I've had an impulse to try and satisfy you,
Yes.
if it hasn't been the financiers who have defied us, it's my own memory of what the security guard said to Bonnard, which is, "It's hanging on the walls of the Louvre, pal. It's over and out. Walk away." It's flawed. It will never be perfect in your mind or perhaps my own, although I have to admit, if I can take myself out of, my own contribution, having seen it recently, I honestly feel it is as close to a perfect film as you can make.
Well, it has the same impact today. I've heard that from many sources.
But I'm just thinking about how it's the story.
Oh, the craft,
The
sure.
story and how it's realized. The cast, which I think embodies the characters they're playing. You can't get better than that. People actually believed what they saw on the screen. Some of them maybe had a different interpretation of that. That's always bothered you. I've always rejoiced in it, frankly, that everyone who sees it has a completely different interpretation of what they've seen.
I don't want them to think the devil won. I just don't.
Well, to me, it's how could they possibly think that?
I know. Well, the problem is the audience, as I long suspected.
I know, Bill, and what we should try to do on the re-release is have the
I'll
audience
stand up
pass
at the
by
end.
you.
No.
No one gets in the theater until you've questioned their veracity,
Bill,
until you've questioned their philosophy.
It doesn't work. I've been on a million talk shows that explained everything to everybody, and they don't hear it.